Welcome to Bases 24, Part 4, with the Grid Keeper, giving some of the most compelling stories and background data ever spoken about James Casbolt, confirming many of his stories and connections with MI5. This is probably the most enlightening and important information so far, given from an independent witness who has seen the Firefly and given a demonstration and a whistleblowing exercise by MI6 at Peasmore. Compelling whistleblowing from Peasmore, the base that Barry King spoke of over 20 years ago. Here we have Bases 24, Part 4, with the Grid Keeper. Well, Dunks, is it okay to call you Dunks?
Yeah, it's fine.
Thanks for bringing us out here to the wonderful race course.
You're welcome.
In the area, is it Goodwood?
Glorious Goodwood.
Glorious Goodwood, and it's just there.
Just there, over the hedge.
And the beautiful South Downs of Sussex.
Yes.
In England's green and pleasant land. And this is where you've had an awful lot of stuff go on.
Yes.
And we're also going to be talking about things in space you've seen from here. Is that right?
I don't know.
Or one of your colleagues?
I can't really talk about that today.
You can't really talk about it.
Not without him, really, because it's all... I'd like to. But
well, let's
maybe we
talk
could do
about
that another time.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I would like to, but...
Well, let's talk about James Casbolt.
James. I could tell you the first time I met James and what happened.
Yeah.
And we were sort of introduced to James through the Probe UFO conference, if you're sure.
That's the one up in Black,
Yeah.
in Lytham Downs.
And we decided to, well, my friend got in contact with him, and we decided just to drive down to St Ives and meet the chap. So we jumped in the car, three of us went down there.
The three of you being?
My friend over there, and one of our other friends who lives in Glastonbury now, but he doesn't have much to do with anything anymore.
Is that anything to do with Matt?
Matt?
Matt Todd?
No.
Okay.
No.
Now, we have interviewed a guy.
Okay, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Matt Todd seemed to have done a little bit of work with James.
Okay. I only know James from 2007, is it? It's 2007, wasn't it? It was at the end of 2006. Can't remember. Could have been the end of 2006,
Yeah.
early 2007. And we've gone down to St Ives.
Which is in Cornwall.
In Cornwall. Got there about 6, 7 in the morning. Sat in the local pub waiting for James to turn up, and he said he was on the beach, so I've walked down there on my own into the little bay where the boats are, walked out onto the sand, walked up to James, shook his hand. As soon as I shook his hand, I heard this noise in the sky, and a military, presume it was Navy, seeking helicopter came over the cliff, 40 foot off the sea, came over onto the sand, hovered about 10 foot off the ground, the side door opened. I was still standing there with James shaking his hand, and we've both looked at this thing, and I'm like, what the bleep is going on? And he grabbed me and threw me on the floor, and he screamed at me, and he went, "Blue beam," threw me on the floor. And there was at least two guys, all in black, standing with the door open, and one of them had this weird device, and a blue flash came out the front of it, and I remember seeing that. Obviously it didn't hit us because he'd thrown me onto the floor, but there was, because it's a holiday makers town, there was quite a few families already walking along the seafront, and the beam hit a crowd of people behind us. And there was a chap walking with his wife and children, and a bloke in a car, only 10, 20 miles an hour, and he sort of swerved and nearly ran them over. And they sort of started fighting. The bloke in the... Do you remember? Yeah? The bloke in the car was screaming at the people in the road, and these two chaps had a bit of a barney. And
did he injure anybody? It hurt anybody?
I don't think... It wasn't a fight. It was more of a scuffle, and it sort of faded away, and they sort of came to their senses. But it was just, blue beam, and that happened. So
now, what is blue beam? Because some people think, some people say it's like projection of big stuff in the sky, or it's a mind, direct to mind thing where you think you're being abducted.
All of the above. But all I know is there was a blue flash. Could have been anything. I don't know what it was. But we saw the result of it happening behind us. Whether that was a coincidence that the bloke in the car was just looking at the helicopter and nearly swerved into these people, I'll never know. But it all seemed to happen at the same time.
It seems to be a remarkable coincidence that the first time that you meet James Casbolt, there's a helicopter hanging there, and a couple of men in black with a weapons system.
Yeah, I'd never had experience with that I could remember from before that time of having any experience with the helicopters or anything. But it kick-started a lot.
Now, what brought you to meet James? What brought you guys down there, all three of you?
Just interested in his story, really, which then led to Peasmore.
And you got the story from where? Where have you seen that story?
I think it was someone giving out audio discs at Probe, and we listened to one of them. Well, why don't we go and meet this chap, find out what's going on? Just intrigued, really, and that then led to him talking to us about Barry King, and saying that Barry produced the newsletters called The Voice.
Yeah.
So
I actually helped photocopy those at Sky News.
Oh, wow.
Doing overnights at Sky News.
Well, I ended up with a copy of nearly all of them.
You probably need to send a check into Sky Television to pay for the photocopier paper.
Oh, wow. Well, I read through a lot of them and discovered this place called Peasmore, and I'd worked at Harwell Laboratories before in the past.
Now that's a big thing.
But not...
What did you do at Harwell Laboratories?
It wasn't working for them. I was contracted to install a lot of furniture into the offices. I used to do a lot of that years ago. I was furniture installation.
When you mean years ago, how many years?
97 onwards. Sort of stopped. I was just doing it on and off for years. I did a bit last year as well.
And what's it like in the Harwell labs?
I don't know. I didn't see the labs. I've been in labs. I've been in a lot of pharmaceutical labs around the country, fitting out their actual laboratories.
So what you mean by you fitting out the woodwork and the structures for where they do the experiments? Or?
Yeah, it's all made out of Trespa. There's no real wood. The wooden cabinets, but all the tops, and just like a science laboratory at school, really, but more elaborate. And that was it. I never saw anything past that, really. But when I was at Harwell, I was in the offices, and I'm working on people's desks. I did see paperwork with experiments written on, but it was always about animals, and rabbits, and I didn't see anything.
Well, that stuff that was really classified shouldn't have been even available to a contractor. No,
I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but I never, I never signed anything, or it was left there, and I saw it, So yeah, I was in their offices. So for someone to talk about Peasmore that I knew was near Harwell Laboratories, of course it interested me. And when I read Barry's documents, I went through one that showed the underground train system.
Yeah.
And the cloning facility of his drawings. And at the end, there was a last bit of paper, and it said, if anyone goes there, watch out for this. And he drew a sketch of the Firefly, which was the triangle, the pre-TR3B.
Yes.
And it said red light in the middle. And at the bottom, he wrote, if you don't believe me, go and look for yourself. Well, that was it. We're going to have a look for ourselves. So my friend that I went to Cornwall with, we arranged to meet James, and we drove up to Peasmore late afternoon one day. Didn't know what to expect, what we were really looking for. We just thought we'd go up and just spend the evening at Peasmore. So we went in the pub, had a drink.
What about the pub?
I'll come back to the pub in a bit, because something did happen in the pub.
The pub, yeah.
But when we were first sitting in the pub just having a drink, that was when the second time I experienced helicopters coming over. And I know they do a lot of training around there anyway, but they were pretty close to the pub, and we went for a walk in the woods. They came out right over the woods and up the road, going around us. And we were like, well, let's see if we can find a hill to go and stand and see if we can spot any UFOs, like you do. So we went up on the hill, and the farmer's assistant came up to us in a Land Rover, said we shouldn't be here. So we went back to the pub.
Which part were you at that they said you shouldn't be here?
We were right near the farm, the main farm at Peasmore. I can't remember exactly where it is.
So it was merely a civilian person? It wasn't?
We think so. Yeah, James said he had weird eyes and everything, but I don't...
What kind of weird eyes?
I don't know. I can't remember what he was on about, really. I think he was probably a bit boss-eyed or something.
Yeah.
But
that would be interesting.
You know, we were on private land. You know, it was a farm. It's not a public... There wasn't a public right of way, and we did go up a track we probably weren't supposed to go up. So we went back to the pub, but we bumped into the farmer. The farmer was in there very drunk. So we just came out of it, and we said, yeah, we've heard rumours that there's an underground base under this area. Do you own the land? And he said, no, I'm just the farmer, and I've been here for 15, 20 years or something. And he did say to me, well, it's funny you should say that, because over the years, dips have appeared in some of the fields, and there's no explanation as to why.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And he said, well, and he was very drunk, but he said, oh, maybe there is something there. But a lot of the locals, we spoke to a few of them in the pub, and we've heard about this, but we don't know.
Now,
and we found that very interesting.
Have they heard it from the basis thing? This is what I'm saying. I'm very conscious that because I've recorded this.
It could have been, because that was a while ago.
It was very limited release.
Yeah.
And this is before there was too much internet for most people.
Yeah,
really.
Maybe it was. I don't know.
I'm just very conscious that I could be feeding a story on my own stuff.
Yeah.
And self-perpetuating a myth, which is, of course, just all hocus pocus from Barry King in 1983.
Well, you know, then the farmer said about these dips, so we told him, you know, we've just come to investigate. Oh. Yeah, so, you know, we were just interested, and we said to the farmer, can we go up on the hill? He said, I'll make a phone call and make sure you're allowed up there. The bloke won't hassle you. So we've driven up the hill near an old copse. We were in a white transit van, and we've got a video camera out, binoculars, whatever, and you know, we're looking up the sky every time an aeroplane come over. We're a UFO, no aeroplane, and we must have been up there for about an hour. And we were like, well, you know, it's midnight or getting close to 1 o'clock in the morning, let's go. As soon as we said that, lo and behold, 3 white lights came slowly over the top of us with a red light in the middle, and it stopped dead. Well, we were quite excited, weren't we? Screaming and shouting. I've pulled out my video camera, just a Sony DV cam, and I had it on manual focus. I always have it on automatic. I must have knocked the button. So I'm trying to film this thing, and you could just about make out there was a triangle there with a red blob in the middle. 3 blobs for white lights, because I couldn't work out why it wasn't focusing. The next thing you know, it's just gone. So it just went, didn't it? I don't know. But before it turned up, because we just looked at the time, we're about to go, then we saw it. We've all got back in the van. You know, I'm holding up the picture that Barry sketched, which we'd taken with us, holding it up to the camera, just filmed it. And I said, I don't think it was you noticed the time, didn't you? Yeah. We'd lost an hour. As far as we knew, this moment happened for 3 or 4 minutes. We got back in the van, it was an hour later.
Any marks on your bodies? Any?
Didn't even think to...
Did you think that the farmer made more than one phone call?
Slow walking. I don't remember any of that. Don't remember. This is all I remember. And then we've gone home. You know, but 2 weeks later, I was telling a friend of mine about this, and he knows nothing about any of this stuff, and he said he'd drive me up there. And that's funny because I actually went for a drink with him on Friday, and I said to him, do you remember what happened in 2007? And in the pub? And he said yeah, and he recalled it very well. And what happened was we went back, we looked around, no helicopters, nothing, it was all a bit boring. Well, let's go and have a drink in the pub. We've sat in the pub, did a time check.
Now, is this still the Peasmore pub?
This is the Peasmore pub. Did a time check, 9 o'clock, yeah, 9 o'clock. It was a football night, England playing someone else. There must have been about 40 people in the pub, all having meals, eating dinner. It's quite early evening. No, sorry, it was 9 o'clock. We got there early evening. 9 o'clock, there were still people eating. All the lights went off. I mean, like, complete power cut. I remember everything going black, completely. The lights come back on, and this is in over the space of a second. Not milliseconds or a fraction, it was a good second. So yeah, the space of a second. The clock's on the wall next to us. I've looked at the clock, it said 10 o'clock.
So that means you lost 2 hours.
Well, it was 9 o'clock when it happened.
But you lost with the TR, with the...
Oh yeah, another hour. So I'm looking at the clock, I'm looking at my mate, and I'm trying to think. I'm drinking Coca-Cola. I've not even had a beer. So I said to him, "Show me your phone." And we'd literally checked our phones, and it's weird because when it happened before, we checked the time. It's like just after you've checked the time, you know. So he showed me his phone. It said 9 o'clock. I looked at the wall. It says 10 o'clock. I've turned my phone over. My phone says 9 o'clock. Said to the person behind the bar, "What's the time?" 10 o'clock. Yet we checked our phones to the clock on the wall. All 9 o'clock. Second later.
And had everybody left?
No, everyone was exactly the same. Exactly the same. Everyone in the pub.
So were the same people sitting in the same place?
Same people in the same places. Yeah. Yeah.
And the clock is a clockwork clock? Or
Clockwork clock, yeah. White dial clock, standard. Didn't know what to say, didn't know what to think. But of course, it's all we talked about for the 2.5 hour drive on the way home. Now, when I got home...
Did anything happen on the way home?
No. But when I got home, I was on the computer looking on YouTube. It must have been... I don't know, I stayed up till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I think at about 4 o'clock, the room just went woof, like that on me. Hard to I can't explain what I saw, how I felt.
The room rotated?
Yeah, it was like the room went woof.
But did you rotate with it?
I don't think I did. No. It's like everything went around me.
Was it like an elastic moving, like a sort of a...
Yeah. It was weird. Hard to explain.
A bit like jelly or jello, you know, as it wobbling. Yeah.
I thought maybe I'm tired, but it's the only time it's ever happened, and it happened on that night.
What were you looking at on the computer? Can you remember?
YouTube. I was probably looking at bases actually.
Oh my!
I was probably doing research on that. Yeah, that's what I was doing. Yeah, but then I thought, well, I've got this film. Oh, I'd looked at the film as well. I'd uploaded the film onto my computer just before that. So I thought, well, sod it, I'll make my first YouTube film. So I made a 15-20 minute film, and it was just us going, basically what I've just told you, you know, when we went, that was it, yeah. I put the film on there from when we went up there with James, because I hadn't decided to do anything with that yet. And it was after this happened, I thought I'll put it on YouTube, see what happens, see if anyone gets back to me. So I've edited the film, had James talking on it for a bit, and then the bit when I had to write an apology on there, say, look, you know, this doesn't prove anything. It's a blur. All you can see is a triangle. You can tell I'm filming the sky, and then I put some of Barry's diagrams of the base on there, uploaded it to YouTube.
Do you still have that film?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
as a file or as an edit?
It's a complete file, because I'll tell you what happened to the edit. Within 4 days, I think it got about 27,000 hits. And I got a phone call on my mobile phone, and it said my name, my full name, and they said, I think you know who we are. We want you to remove what you've put on YouTube off the internet. And I'm thinking, who the is this? And I've then heard a helicopter, and the bloke on the phone said, look out of your window. And I was in a flat in a city. I looked out the window and there was a blue Sea-King helicopter, I don't know, half a mile away, just doing a little semicircle thing. He said, now look out the other window, and there was a yellow one, and they were just flying around me like this. Didn't know
This is a tremendous amount of overt thing, which tells me that they want this story released.
Yeah, and it was, and I've got something. I'll show you something. I've got a document here, which I'll show you in a minute. And
Don't let it blow away in the wind.
no. And, so that happened, and I. So I'm just trying to remember exactly what happened with the phone call. He said, remove the video from YouTube. And I said, do you know what I filmed? And he said, yes. I then said, well, if you're going to fly over me in a £2 billion craft that was built on Earth, you should at least know that I'm standing there with a video camera. I've not signed the Official Secrets Act, and the thing stopped over me. What do you think I'm going to do? Well, it's denoticed, you've got to remove it. Blah. I said, denoticed? I'm not the media and I've never signed anything. I said, Edgar Rothschild went public with the TR-3B and he's spoken about it, did an interview. And I said, it's even been mentioned on Discovery Channel. He went, yeah, that's America, you're in England. You do what we tell you. So I then, what did he do? He put me on hold. And I still wasn't 100% sure who I was talking to.
You mean you didn't capitulate and collapse into the ground saying, oh yes, 3 bags full, sir?
No, but I was a bit shaky, you know, I was a bit, what the is going on? So he put me on hold, and a message came up and it said, thank you for contacting MI5. If you have any information you'd like to share with us, please contact us on this phone number, or you can email, look on our website at mi5.gov.co.uk. And I just launched the phone across the room and it hit the wall and blah blah blah. And that was basically it. There was more to the conversation, and there was a lot more to the conversation. Obviously, I'm not saying it word for word, but I have a recording. I recorded most of the conversations I've ever had with MI5. Now you're going to ask me, where are they? They're in Ireland. But they're on a hard drive, I've got them. So I removed the video. I didn't know what else to do, I removed it. But then things started happening. I got more involved in looking for UFOs, presenting information on the moon through my other source.
That's the man with the telescope.
Yeah, and then we got involved,
which is so got John Lear so interested.
And we then unwittingly filmed a lot of the craft linked to the secret space program, the Star Wars project, and a lot of other things.
Now explain how you unwittingly film secret craft with the secret space program.
We didn't know what they were, so we put them on YouTube to try and find out. Huh?
Where did you do this filming?
I can't, Miles. Without him being here, talking about it without him could shut him down. He might not ever say it, you know. And I'd like him to one day come forward.
I'm having a bit of fun here, but
and properly talk about it with you, if that was possible. I then got this. You're quite more than welcome to read that.
And,
I won't show you the address, but it came in this envelope, a small handwritten envelope, briefly shown to you, and it was written on a construction worksheet, business unknown, but it's a corner just torn off, and it says, Duncan, can you ring Ron Clark, contact telephone number, and any of you can Google this telephone number, 0207 060 6063. Hope all is well, all the best, signed Ron Clark.
now, what's the significance of what
Written underneath the phone number with a line under it in capital letters is the word good firm. That's a password. It's a password for ringing MI5, and that's MI5's phone number. This letter was delivered to my mother's house. I didn't know who it was, so I rang the number on a Sunday and it went through to a mobile phone. The chap that answered it, Bob Taylor, who I know James has spoken to a lot of times, asked me how I was, what I was up to, general friendly questions. I'm like, who are you? I said, what do you do? Oh, I work for a construction company laying pipes. I'm in Southampton at the moment. Maybe, I think my boss would probably be offering you a job. If you can ring back on Monday on this number, you can get to speak to him. All recorded on tape. Never put on YouTube, just tucked away somewhere. So I rang back on Monday and I got through to this chap and I asked for Ron Clark and he said, oh, I'll put you through. What's your password? Well, me being a bit thick, didn't realise that's what that was at the time. He said, without a password, I can't help you. So I put the phone down, spoke to James, and I read him this. He said, well, that's your password. So I rang up, said that, and he said, I'll put you through.
Now, this is important because it means that James knew the password, and therefore...
Well, he said he didn't know the password, but he said to me, that probably is what the password is.
Yes, yeah.
And he was right. Was it you? Sorry, it wasn't James, it was him. He told me that.
We've got to understand that we've got a gentleman off screen.
James did use this password though, at a later date. I gave it to him and he used it. And they rang me back.
Well, it must be a fairly ordinary low security password,
so,
obviously.
yeah. So I then rang back and I said, look, I can't get through to this Ron Clark. So they gave me this mobile phone number, which has got a lot of zeros in it. I don't know. Should I show you the phone number? I don't know. You can look at that.
We'll get a lot of nutters. Well, why not?
I don't care. I never got to speak to this chap anyway. That was the number I was given. I was told to ring back on Thursday. He was doing something, ring back. So I rang back. Yeah. Never got an answer. Have you got it?
Yeah.
So, this was the funny bit. I rang MI5 again. You know, and I'd Googled the number. This was their main contact number on their website.
Well, if it's on Google, it must be right.
Yeah, yeah. So I rang Bob and I'm like, hello, I spoke to you the other... You were with me, weren't you? I said, yeah, I spoke to you the other day. And he was like, asking me who are you, what's this about? I said, no, well, we spoke, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure who you are. I said, no, I'm trying to get hold of Ron. I can't get hold of him. And he started being really funny with me. And he put the phone down. So I rang back. And when he picked the phone up, he went, no. I rang back and he said, yeah, where you going, mate? I went, what? He said, where do you want a taxi to? I said, what do you mean? I said, you're MI5. I'm what? Don't be ridiculous. What you do? Do you want a taxi or not? Stop wasting my time. I said, no, I don't want a taxi. I said, I've been ringing you for the last few days to speak to this chap because you sent a letter to my mother's house. What's it all about? He said, no, you're wasting my time, mate. Put the phone down. So I rang back. I've recorded this as well. So I rang back again and he picked the phone up and he went, 007 taxis. Didn't he? And I was like, mate, you're having a fucking laugh. You're off your head. And I was getting a really little bit pissed off with him. And I said, mate, you're not a taxi firm. You're MI5. He said, you're off your head, mate. Are you mad or what? Started laying into me a bit. I said, all right, if you're a taxi firm, what's the name of your taxi? 007 taxis, mate. Stop wasting my fucking time. Put the phone down. So I rang him back again. He said, do you want a taxi? I said, yeah, what's your address, mate? He went, 146 Shaftesbury Avenue. Do you want a taxi? No. Well, fuck off then, and put the phone down. And I left it at that. A week later, I drove up to London to look for 146 Shaftesbury Avenue, and it doesn't even go up that far. It goes up to about 138 or something like that. And that was it for a while. I carried on putting films on YouTube, up to about 500 films now. But James contacted MI5 because he wanted some documents to do with his file.
When is this?
2008, probably. So I was doing some furniture work in London, coming back in the evening. My phone rings, private number, hello. And the chap on the other end of the phone, Bob Taylor. You can reckon his Brummie accent, recognise his voice. And he said, I've just had a conversation with James, can you tell me about that? I was like, what? I said, mate, you're the one who's just had a conversation with James and you're asking me about it. I know nothing about it. He said, well, I think you need to speak to James. Would you like me to put you through to him? I said, well, hang on a minute. If you put me through to his phone, you're going to record it, aren't you? And he went, yes, sir. And I went, no, sod off, I'll ring him myself. I went, no, hang on a minute, that's going to cost me. If I ring him, you're going to record that as well, aren't you? You went, yes, sir. I said, well, put me through then. The next thing you know, it's ringing. James answers the phone. I said, you've just had a conversation with MI5. He said, yeah, I'm trying to get some information about, I want to see some of my file from the past. And they said they'll show it to me. I said, well, they've just said this to me. He said, I don't know. And that was it. And then I said, all right, see you later. And didn't even get to speak to that bloke again after that. So I don't know what, that was just weird, mate. Just weird. So
seem to be just having a laugh.
Don't know.
Or checking you sideways.
Yeah.
It's the rotation.
It's weird. So there was another incident, which isn't my place to say what happened, but it was quite a horrific thing that happened, and it involved the police and to do with kidnapping, and it all stunk of an MK Ultra setup that someone was sort of mind controlled to do something really nasty that was connected to us, and someone was taken. So I rang up MI5, and when it happened, the first thing I saw in my head was all this involvement from their side. So I rang MI5 and I said, you've got to stop this now, sort it out. I know this has happened. It's not normal for this to happen the way it's happened. Didn't really get anywhere. So I phoned James. I said, James, you've got to ring them up. We've got to get this person back and stop this.
Was this a man or woman? Can we talk about that?
A woman. A woman was taken. Not very nasty business. And I said to James, use the password. James rings up MI5, Bob Taylor. Said, hello James, what can I do for you? He said, I need to speak to someone about this incident that's just happened. Password, good firm. He gets put through to some scientist chap, and no, sorry. He gets put through to someone else. James then says exactly what I told to tell him about. We know don't say we think you did this, tell him we know you did this. The agent or whatever on the other end of the phone went, oh, you must have been talking to Dr. Borden, and came back with a name. Within 3 or 4 hours, it was all sorted. The woman was put under semi-police protection, the bloke was taken in, but released the next day or the day after, put back on the streets. I know that because I saw him. He drove up to me and my friend in the street and just pulled up in his convertible, looked at us and went, all right, is there a problem? Everything all right? And we just had to stand there and grit our teeth and go, yeah, everything's fine, mate. Knowing what he'd just done.
Is
So that was just...
is that something you want to talk about?
It's not for me to say, but someone may talk about that to you in the future. So, you know, my experience after that, I didn't see James too much. But every now and again we'd meet up and have a meal or something and have a chat. But
what is your significance about James at that time? How do you feel that he was important, that it was relevant, that it was meant things?
It just felt right to spend time with him and experience some of these things that aren't really normal.
Such as?
Just going out looking for UFOs and things like that, really. And being with James and having helicopters turn up. You know, I can give dozens of times. I've been on top of that hill and I've had Chinooks come down over me. I've been...
I mean, we're at the end of a runway here, a small airport.
Yeah, Goodwood race, yeah. And the military do training over here anyway, but I'm talking we've met up and you'll get a Chinook turn up within 5 minutes and it'll just hover 100 yards away from you and you'll get flashing lights come off it and all sorts.
But that's an expensive piece of hardware to have flying around, just sort of giving a few
Well,
things.
there's an SAS base 8 miles away from here.
Oh, there's the SAS here.
So they're not... It doesn't take them long to get here, and you've got Portsmouth Navy Base 16 miles from here. And I've been, you know, I did a bit of painting and decorating in 2009, literally over that hill down the other side on a housing estate. This is where the military police headquarters used to be, and MI6 used to bring helicopters in and all sorts into this walled bit. And it had been shut down, and I was up next to it. I was painting a chimney stack or something. I put on this scaffolding, and I'd probably just put another film on the internet, and there was a Navy Lynx helicopter with the big Marconi radar ball on the front of it, grey one, came straight, could see it coming from Portsmouth, straight up to where I was, went past the old police headquarters, hovered over the road, eye level with me. I'm standing there with a paintbrush on a bit of scaffolding, and this thing's edging towards me from, see where that tree is? It's about there.
We're talking something like
the side door opens. There's two guys.
Meters.
There's two guys all in black, and they're looking at me. So I'm waving my paintbrush, going, "What?" And they start get right up to the house, and they start edging around me like this. Now you've got Goodwood Airfield down there, and depending on the wind direction, they take off. Sometimes over the estate I was at. And my video camera's down on the ground, and I'm kicking myself that I've not got this thing up on the chimney. The pilot has edged around into the flight path. Plane's taken off. Swerved backwards, nearly hit the plane. So, and then after that they flew off. Now that's just one experience. Another experience, you know Amesbury.
Yeah.
Coming down the road, going to Stonehenge.
Good old Boscombe Down on the left.
Yeah, it's a training area. But how often do you drive up to go on a mission to Stonehenge? You pull up to the roundabout, an Apache helicopter comes over from Boscombe Down and drops down over the top of your car about 10 foot, you know, and then trails you to Stonehenge into the car park. You then go into Stonehenge, two Chinooks come around, the squirrel yellow and blue training helicopters that seem to appear at strange moments. Number 45, for instance, which you'll see in a lot of my films, comes up around us. Yeah, could have been training, but we've then done something at Stonehenge. Two jets come over and they do the shock blast over the vortex to try and stop what you've just done. We then get in the car to drive down the Salisbury Road.
No, the shot blast is that would be the
afterburner.
Yeah,
it's right over the really low over Stonehenge. Shock the scalar.
Yeah. You're talking about using it as a scalar weapon, the shot blast, the scalar.
To disrupt a scalar.
Yeah.
What we've just done, but that's a whole nother story, you know. We've then gone into the car and we're driving. This is on. I'll make this video available for you to watch. You can, everything I'm telling you now, you can watch all this. You know, when we're driving down to Salisbury, the 45 helicopter comes back, flying over the car, and then he goes over up the road, and he flies back straight towards us, straight over the car. And the jet comes past us again. We've then gone around, past the roundabout going south, you know, the half a mile from Stonehenge, and there's a lay-by. We've stopped in the lay-by. The number 45 helicopter, you know, is standing next to the car, comes down right next to us, hovers over the road, not caring that there's, you know, there's public there, and I'm standing there with my video camera, and you see where that tree is, hovers down where the tree is, snakes up towards us, flies around in a little circle, and then flies off, all on film. And that's just one of dozens and dozens of times that that's happened, you know. We're talking.
But that's a lot of resources that they do. I mean, that's.
Oh, we're talking millions.
Now,
and it's
what were you doing that would make them do that?
Dousing, without going into
At
it too much.
Stonehenge?
Yeah. But doing a bit more than dousing, you know. Grid work, which is what I've always done.
Now you're talking grid work because
it's a whole
you
other
are
interview, Miles.
the
for
grid
me.
keeper.
If I was to go into that, we'd be here for a day talking about
Well,
that.
why don't we go into a bit of it now?
You know.
Hold on.
Well, I've still got to do Scotland yet. Well, that's
So
what a lot of
what
my
is the
videos
grid
are
keeper
about.
called grid keeper for?
Grid keeping. You know.
Are you matrix reality grid keeping or what?
Just bringing a bit of balance here and there.
Because we know
Crop
that
circles.
attacking the grid very
Yeah.
aggressively.
I just douse where the vortex points are, and you've got there's one up there, but right behind you. Very important one up there. You know, where those two nasty ELF towers are. Which they're obviously dotted along the South Downs quite a lot.
We do have a nice little weather formation behind it as well.
Yeah.
And what's just over there, just for the sake of this picture?
That's called the trundle. If you take dowsing rods up there, you walk around a chalk track, and you'll douse a 32 pointed star around the top. I don't know what that means. It's just there. I've done it. You know, the first time second day I ever used dowsing rods, I did that.
Now, what is that something that's been there a long time, or is it a manufactured thing? Of what do you feel that is?
Trundle's been there a long time. This is where the water comes out of here. It pulls. There's a what happens is the scalar wave goes down into the ground and it hits the water table, comes back up, and it pulls water up. A prime example of that, there's two in Avebury. Well, one in Avebury and one in Marlborough. If you go to, you know Avebury, don't you? Yeah. You know where the obelisk is? The giant obelisk where the white horse is on the way to Cain, I think it is. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you ever climbed up there?
Yes, I was there the other day. Almost.
Okay.
Right.
Well, if you stand where the obelisk is, look down in the bit that curves down. There's a load of bushes at the bottom. There's a pumping station in those bushes, and they're pumping water out. So what the obelisk does, it's like a double vortex. It pushes, the vortex comes down in an anti-clockwise, and it's tuned to the element of water. It hits the water table, brings the water up through the earth as it comes back up, and they pump it out and give it to everyone in Avebury, wherever. If you then go down to Merlin's Mound, which is the
that's in
Marlborough
College.
Yeah. I don't know if you can get in there anymore.
Yes, but we would be in there. You can get in there during the Wiltshire Crop Circle Study Group hold a conference there.
And what you'll see is you've got Silbury Hill, which I don't know if you know how Silbury Hill works. It's a step pyramid of chalk coated in the earth, the grass, which makes it electric dielectric. So it's like a capacitor, which is what Salisbury Plain is. That's why Salisbury Plain is so important. That's why Stonehenge is there. That's why the military are there, because it's a huge control panel. And Merlin's Mound is 3/4 the size of Silbury Hill, but it's not an encased step pyramid. You can actually see the steps on it. And if you climb up the top, have a look at what they've put on the top. There's a giant water tank on there. Yeah, you can climb up there and touch the thing. It's on if you go onto my YouTube channel, or just go onto YouTube, type in easy water. 3 films will come up. One of the obelisk, one of Merlin's mound, and you'll see us. Well, you were there, weren't you? We filmed down into the tank. And the easy water 3 is I'm riding up here on my bike.
Now, is that water energised in a way that they would use it for some other purpose?
I think it's very healthy water, because the water that comes out of Merlin's mound is fed to everyone at Marlborough College. So it's energised, it's healthy. Whereas tap water that we drink, especially in London, is pressurised. So the molecules slowly slow down and they stop spinning. That's why a lot of people put quartz crystal in the water to get the molecules spinning, because it affects your blood cells. It stops you from being lethargic.
I have one of the spirals.
The vortex, yeah.
Which I put onto my...
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
good for your health.
Right now there's a lot of stuff going on about fracking.
Don't know much about fracking, to be honest with you.
I mean, energetically that must be very toxic to the water system.
Yeah.
But that's another thing.
I don't know much about that. So.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Scotland?
Yeah, Scotland.
What happened in Scotland, Miles? I would like to know the answer to a lot of that myself. I've watched James's video. I've heard what he said.
Let's be very clear. We're talking about a small palace that a dignitary.
Balmoral Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody called the Queen would go in there, you know.
Yeah.
And yet you and 3 others gained access to that.
Yeah.
One of whom was James Casbolt.
Yeah.
Another was another gentleman who's here.
Who's here, and the other chap was JFK's advisor and a secret director of the CIA. Good friend of mine.
Yeah.
If I told you who he was, you probably wouldn't be able to find anything about him on the internet.
So
what's the point?
So were you in there trying to get some tea and scones with Her Majesty or what?
My friend wanted to speak to them.
And which friend is this?
My friend from America, JFK's friend. And it was his idea to go up there.
So this was sort of like just dropping in?
You heard James talk about the Spear of Destiny.
Well, I want to hear you talk about it.
Yeah. Well, this is the chap that was linked to that in the past. So he had links to it many years ago, which I don't know much about. But if someone says to me, huh?
What sort of links?
That he was one of the modern day keepers of it. But it's very sketchy as what's what. You know, I don't have those answers. But he's the one that said, let's go to Balmoral, there's going to be a meeting in there with all these dignitaries, and Bush and Blair will be there. And
Who will be there?
Bush, Blair,
yeah.
Members of the royal family.
Which Bush?
Young Bush.
Bush Senior.
Junior.
W.
Yeah. I'm always up for an adventure. Yeah, I'll come with you. Hiring a 4x4 trip to Scotland. Stop in and see Roslin Chapel on the way. Never seen it before. So we've gone up there. We drove to Balmoral Castle. And all I remember, this is exactly how I remember it. We drove in through the front gate, and there was a few police about. We saw the police were there, so we knew people were there.
There were actually some police at Balmoral Castle with all these people in it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was police there.
So it wasn't sort of like open, you know?
Oh no. It was supposedly shut that day to the public. But we just sort of drove in. I just remember driving in, we've gone round the back of the castle. I can remember seeing someone walking their dog. My friend saying that he needs to go in and speak to these people. The next thing you know, I remember being told to leave.
No,
you know?
This is a big surprise for me.
Yeah.
That you'd be told to leave. Were you told to leave politely or impolitely or?
Well, you shouldn't be here. You need to leave. That was by the police. So, we're ever so sorry. We're lost. You know, my American friend here is we've just brought him to show him the sights. Oh, the castle's closed today. Okay, sorry, we'll leave. So we drove out, went over the road to the church, which is just across the road, did a bit of dowsing, really dark energy, and struggled to do a couple of things. And after about half an hour, it was a Range Rover, wasn't it? Big Range Rover comes flying in, stopped. James looked at it and he went, well, they look like MI6. They were big guys.
Now, why would they look like MI6 as opposed to MI5?
Don't know.
Did they feed the guys at MI6 an extra beef burger a week or what?
Don't know. They were big guys. All I know.
And the point about this is that this is once again giving some credence.
That's just speculation who they were, isn't it? I don't know who they were, but they were in a big Range Rover, kitted out, and they just stopped and stared at us, and we're like, what do we do? Well, we'll all get in. And matey was driving, wasn't he? American guy. Yeah, don't ever try and get away from these guys when you've got someone that usually drives on the right hand side of the road, driving your 4x4 for 10 miles. Yeah, I had a couple of scary moments, but they were right up behind us for a good 10 miles. I don't know if it was a chase. Was it a chase? Possibly.
Now, James was saying that you actually performed a ceremony.
I'll get to that in a minute. We've then gone to this hotel and we've sort of lost them. Gone into the hotel and we're sitting there saying, well, we've come all the way to Scotland. Have we wasted our time? And I opened up a map, put my finger on it, which is one of the things I used to do, and see where it lands. And I landed on a stone circle, coincidentally 2 miles away from the hotel we were at. Well, that's where we're going next. So midnight we went up there, didn't we? We've gone up to this stone circle. Amazing stone circle. I can't remember what it's called, but it's sort of 10 miles east of Balmoral Castle. Anyone could probably find it.
Is that 10 miles directly east or south-east? Or?
Directly,
right.
Roughly.
Okay.
It might be up a little bit. We've gone into the stone circle and I'm taking photos, and there's white balls coming out of the ground, flying up in the air on the camera. Well, they look like they've got tails behind them going upwards.
Now, are those actually tails or are these streaks on the exposed image?
Don't know. Could have been exposed image. And we stood, 4 of us stood north, east, south, west, and we did a thing with Archangel Michael, didn't we? And I did all the talking.
Yeah, but there's some people. James is saying he is Archangel Michael.
Yeah, I don't know. But I could see this Archangel Michael in the middle of the stone circle.
That's
in my mind's eye.
What was that like? What was the experience like?
It was almost like I was locked in a trance with it all, really. And I started talking. An hour later, I finished talking. I don't know what I really talked about. I filmed it. It's all on film. I've not even ever watched the film back. Just didn't feel the need to. But after that happened...
I mean, the film doesn't have Archangel Michael on.
Oh, no. No, this was just up here. So, after that, we saw a glow. Do you remember the sky was glowing in the direction of... It was almost like when you look in the distance and you see a city and the sky glows up. That's what was above Balmoral Castle. There was a glow in the sky. And then a big helicopter came past in the distance, and there was funny lights moving about. UFOs, didn't know what they were. And as far as I'm concerned, we went back to the hotel and all went to sleep. And the next day we came home. Now James says that while we were in that, or after that stone circle, that we were taken into Balmoral Castle. And this whole thing happened with Odin's spear. I can tell you now, that wouldn't at least surprise me, after what I've already told you about time experiences. It would not surprise me if that happened. But I have no memory. I don't know what you're on about.
Talking about a TR3?
I don't remember anything. That's all I remember. I don't know.
Sky opening up, lightning shooting between us, up, down, all over Balmoral Castle.
Did it? No? Don't remember that at all.
What did you not remember? Could you repeat
No.
Could you repeat what's been said by our colleague.
He said the sky. That sounds really familiar. You should say the sky opened up, but I don't.
Set up the crystals.
Oh, I made a crystal grid. There's a picture of it on. You look at Vortex Energy Part 1 on YouTube. The picture of the spiral, which was the vortex, which I actually took a photo of by holding the camera over my heart, you'll see a crystal grid. That was in that stone circle. But he's saying, and it does sound familiar, the sky opening up, but the lightning, no, I've got no memory of that whatsoever. But he's saying lightning came down and hit the castle.
Black cloud rolling all over us.
Vague, very vague. I don't.
Black clouds rolling all over you. Yeah.
But,
The cloud opened up right
Yeah.
up above us.
yeah.
And made just an opening right up above us in a circle where we could see all the stars coming through.
That sounds familiar. Which is when I think I remember seeing the lights. I don't know what they weren't planes, but you know.
Like a bolt. It wasn't
Okay.
lightning, but
Yeah,
lightning,
yeah,
bolts of
yeah.
lightning came down, hit in between us,
Did
the
it?
floor, then went straight back up again.
No idea.
Over the top of the cloud,
Yeah.
and then went down and hit the spire at the top
Oh.
of the whole castle. And then
Okay.
it went down,
Well,
and then when we saw the newspapers the next day, or a couple of days later,
yeah.
the Queen had a black eye.
Oh yeah, she had the black eye. I've still got the newspaper cutting for that somewhere. She
Where
had a
did the black eye? What's the significance of that?
Don't know. No idea. Don't know. But yeah, it's all red, and her eye was really bloodshot, wasn't it? But then, you know, I watched James's interview, and he said we're in the castle, and Odin Spear's there, and I'm thinking, what? It wouldn't surprise me if we were in there, but I have no memory
Now,
of.
forgive
I have
my
no memory
ignorance.
Of that
The Spear of
whatsoever.
Destiny and Odin's Spear. What's the two different?
I don't know. I've got no idea. Are they one and the same thing, or are they two different things? I don't know. You know, maybe I do know, but I can't remember. I have no memory of it whatsoever.
But clearly, it seems that the American guys seem to be bringing you guys into something
Yeah.
which is maybe already arranged. I mean,
Yeah.
you weren't thrown out and arrested in machine guns.
Oh
You were
no,
just
not
told.
at all. Never. That's never happened. I was saying to you earlier, I walked into the police station, sat down with them for 3 hours, and brought up all the secret space program, films, photographs, everything, and they just kept looking at me, going, "It's classified. It's classified."
Now, when did you walk into the police station? Why did you do that? As we're closing part one now.
Because I just got fed up with all the helicopters flying around me, and no one. Who do you talk to? But who do you talk to about it? You can't ring up MI5 and go, "Why are you?" Or go down to the Navy base and go, "Why are you flying all these helicopters, spending millions of pounds, flying along next to me?" And I go to Glastonbury and sit on the tour, and you send out 30 helicopters in a day, which I'm sitting there filming. You know, why would you do that?
What are you looking for? Well, I'm okay though. Just about gone. You got me in a couple places.
Get the camera out. They love it. They love a church. What a nutter. He's virtually stopped over the top of us. What are you doing? When it's you know when they're training and when they're not training, you know.
How do you tell that as we close?
Where you are, what you're doing, the situation you're in, what you've just done, what you're about to do, you know. Especially if they're flying over the roof of your car for 2 or 3 miles. You know, they turn when you turn, they fly over you and they turn over your head. Just, yeah, incredible really. No, I'm not saying I don't like them. I've always been interested in Navy and military vehicles and aircraft, but it's just not having an understanding of it. So I went to the police station and I said to them, you know, I said to the woman, I'm pretty pissed off that I don't know why you do this. Yeah, you could say, oh, it's because you put these space things on the internet, you show the moon. Yeah, but I'm just showing you something. I'm not giving you 100% proof that this is this, that's that, because I can't ever tell you that. And she just kept looking at me going, it's classified. Now for me that was enough. That made me happy. That,
in other words, that
she acknowledged that to me. She didn't turn around and go, you're completely mad, what are you talking about? She looked at me and went, that's classified. Great.
But how would she know that's classified? Who was the person you were talking to? A chief superintendent or what? Or?
No, they wouldn't speak to us.
Was this an arranged meeting?
Yeah, this was arranged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
this was arranged.
that's the end of part 1, which we'll mix with the existing video we've shot with your other colleague who knows James.
Yeah.
And
but the other thing about...
we're just going to do a tape change.
Oh, okay.
Rather tape.
I was going to say about the... why I would have been at Balmoral Castle and not someone else.
Well, we'll do that in part 2. Second.
I haven't got much more to say, but I'll say that.
Welcome to Bases 24 Part 4 vlog insert. We've just come here to do a little piece at the Churl White Horse, which is all very, very nice. And we've had some people turn up, and they just turned up by surprise. Very military looking individuals, and they commented on my tripod, and we had a little bit of a joke. It seems they knew that I knew that they knew that I knew. They just happened to be here and turn up just when I did. This is the Bases Project on the road in Wiltshire, doing a blog report for Bases 24 Part 4.